I'm gonna. Okay, wait. I'm gonna do 3, 2, 1, go, and after go we'll start, just so everyone's.
I thought you were already recording and we were just gonna start talking.
Oh yeah, we could just start talking. Welcome to Readers Guild podcast.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, don't worry about the mishaps and the miscommunication. This is going to be the norm and the theme of this podcast because we are all readers and are all illiterate at the same time. So,
Yep.
Mhm.
I am Scribe, uh, and or Orion, whatever you wish,
And or.
and or
And or
yes,
Slash.
and slash or
also
yes. We have with our
Arjun.
yes, also Orugine for the
Thank
for
you,
the
thank you.
insiders that
Very
will-
nice.
if you know, you know. Um, yeah, and we have with us Fire, aka
Hello.
would you like to be doxxed?
Yeah, sure. Dox me.
Okay, Fire, aka
Ashley cannot keep it a secret, so.
I can't. I'm not.
No, you
I'm not
can.
gonna do it. I'm gonna.
Wait,
Well, I
wait,
can
wait,
call you
wait.
Sid Sad.
No, okay. I was gonna say
that doesn't dox
we
me?
should see how
Yeah.
long it takes Ashley to dox you. So I was not.
She
gonna do
already
it.
did.
I
She
said
already-
Sid Sad.
Yeah, you could be anything.
You can be anything.
Yeah,
That's anything at all.
yeah.
How is that anything? Okay, we'll see. We'll see.
Okay. Well, we have here with us Fire, aka Torment.
Okay.
Okay. And then we have Nerpy Nerpston, aka Corbano. JK. It's actually just Corbin.
Yes. Derpy. Derpy.
Nerpy Derpy, and as the name suggests, you are quite derpy, I hear.
Yes.
Yes. And of course, we have Ashley.
Of course.
Just Ashley.
Just Ashley. Just Ashley.
Well, just
One of many.
Ashley. I'm not,
One
I
of
don't know-
many.
I don't know the entire Hagrid line, but that's okay. Anyways, yes, this is session 0 of the podcast. We're basically just going to introduce ourselves like we just did, and some of our reading tastes and reading methods, and discuss anything and everything about reading, just to get us acquainted with each other. So yeah, yes, acquainted. I don't know any of you.
I've never met you in my life.
We just picked up some strangers on the side of the road and we're like, hey, want to do a podcast? And here we are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually homeless.
You stole a computer from the trash can or in a Starbucks using a McDonald's Wi-Fi.
Dumpster diving
Yeah.
at Best Buy.
Yeah.
He
Honestly,
broke into a
Exactly.
library to use the Wi-Fi.
yeah.
Use the computers.
Yeah, because the library closes at 5.
Yeah. The librarians have
Um.
tried to get you to leave. You're scaring the kids. What are your guys' favorite books?
Well, mine is The Way of Kings, but I normally don't recommend it to people just because it's like a first book in an incomplete 10-book series. So I'd say my runner-up is Babel or Babel, however you want to pronounce it.
Wonderful. Yes, Way of Kings is one of my favorite books too, but it is not my favorite. Babel is up there, but when I think of my favorite, and I'm gonna choose something that's in the fantasy genre, just because that's what I primarily read, it is probably going to be Sword of Kaigen, just because it's a standalone as of now. I don't know if there's going to be a sequel. It's hard to choose one of the Wheel of Time books because there's so many of them. But Sword of Kaigen, for me.
Well, if you had to choose one, which one would it be?
Wheel of Time in Wheel
Yeah.
of Time.
Yes.
I always go between book 4, Shadow Rising, and book 11 or book 12. Like honestly, I'm just
But if
gonna
you
say,
had to choose one,
can't be doing this. Come on. Emotional
well, you gotta
distress so
choose.
early
You're on the clock.
All right, book
They're
4.
like his children. You can't force him to choose one.
Well, you always have a favorite. You just don't tell anyone.
Wait, None of you are parents. None of
Yeah,
us.
but like we're all the favorite child of somebody.
Can you confirm that? without a doubt?
I can, actually. And the whole family can confirm it too. It was not a secret. It's very sad.
Oh, wait, you want it to be a secret? No, you gotta let it be known and let your dominance be established amongst all your peers and otherwise. But anyways, book 4 for me. Shadow Rising.
Poor choice.
You're only saying that because you can't read. Anyways,
I would have said that for anything you chose.
I know. Unless it was Sanderson, of course. I would have said book 12 and
12
you'd have been like,
And 13 were pretty good though.
yeah. But all right. Ashley, Nerpy, favorite book.
Well, it changes. I have like 10 that I rotate through. So every time you ask me,
What's
it's
your favorite child? What's your favorite
different
child?
answer. Right now it's Vicious. Vicious by Victoria Schwab. I go back to that one a lot. That's a good one.
Funnily enough, that's the only one of your 10 children that I actually know of. So
I know, and it's okay because I haven't read all 800 Wheel of Time books, so it's fine.
That's fair. That's fair.
Will.
I've read 3 chapters of the first one.
Hey, that's
That's-
something. What's your
that's
favorite
it.
chapter?
The first one.
Oh no.
Good chapter.
Yeah, it's a good chapter.
The
I agree.
prologue or the first chapter?
No, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So, Nerpy.
Well, I think I just gotta default to my favorite series of all time, Dresden Files, and go with Skin Game,
Oh, Skin Game. Okay.
which is number 15.
Okay.
Which I don't think anyone in here has read.
No, I'm on book. I'm on Ghost Story. I don't know what number that is.
Yeah, that's 13.
Okay, so I'm getting close. Yeah.
It's gonna catch
Yeah,
up.
pretty close.
I think I've only read 7 of them. Here
I
and there.
guess. Yeah, you've read up till Deadbeat. Like you've read through Deadbeat. So
Yeah.
I'm catching up, and I guess I should put this out there since the topic is there. My favorite out of the Dresden books I have read is, I think, very easily Changes, but followed up by Turncoat as a close second, which is like the one
Okay.
before, basically. So
Are those just the last 2 that you read?
yeah,
Like they
yeah.
just keep getting better? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, basically, it's. I mean, if you had to ask me my Dresden thoughts, my ranking, I would just literally number the books that I have read in backwards order.
In order?
Yeah, yeah. For the most part, there'll be like a few.
You would even put 2 in front of 1?
That's the one that I would probably switch. But at the end of the,
Mhm.
but also sometimes I think of the end of 2, and I like it slightly better than 1, just because of the more like cheesiness of it. Because that's kind of what the series was to me early on, and so I
Mhm.
kind of like I ate that shit up, you know. But yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, but that's mildly sidetracking. So yeah, that's favorite books. Babel, sort of Kaigen. I mean, Way of Kings as well. Dresden, Vicious gives you an idea. But what about like your favorite genres? What's everyone's favorite genres?
I think we all read fantasy. for the
Yeah,
most part.
mostly. You read
Yeah,
fantasy.
fantasy mostly. I mean, if you could maybe break it down a little bit more than that. I like urban fantasy quite a bit. I mean, I'm not
Just
haven't
because
read
of Dresden?
mostly because of Dresden. Yeah.
Okay.
You see the
But I
potential.
also I really enjoyed Harry Potter and Percy Jackson when I read those. So those also count.
Yeah, yeah. So favorite genre, fantasy. Yep. All right. Well, that's enough for today's podcast, everyone. So no, but I mean, I guess since Nerpy brought up subgenres, do you guys have any preferred subgenres, like urban fantasy, for example?
I like grimdark.
Yeah, you do.
Also epic fantasy, but I think I've been in a grimdark phase lately.
Yeah.
I don't really like grimdark. And I don't really like urban fantasy because they make me sad. They're gritty and dirty. I like high fantasy.
Dirty.
Yeah, dirty. Like Poppy War. Tell me she's just not filthy all the time. Sad. I don't want that.
I mean, you're not wrong. They even call her so like multiple times in this series because she's been checking.
They're
for-
racist. So Ashley, what does that make you?
Oh,
Racist.
yeah.
Anyway, no, I like high fantasy, high, pretty, flowery language, beautiful setting. That's what I like.
Don't you
Yeah.
also like magical realism? Because you like yours
It
more
depends.
grounded.
Like Neil Gaiman, I like when he does it, but sometimes I'm like, oh, you know, it can be done cheesily, pretty easily.
Yeah, I think so. You really like the because I know we talked about it. You like the older like 80s 90s fantasy schlocks where it's like a run of the mill adventure, but you know you get to like fall in love with these characters as they.
Yeah, like a D&D campaign in a book.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's what I like.
Which is
Yeah.
why I think you would really like
Cool, fun.
Drizzt, Legend of Drizzt. I know you said you bought the books, correct?
Yeah,
Those
I bought the
first-
first two 2 or 3 days ago. Very excited.
Yeah, literally reads like a D&D campaign too. I mean, quite. It's basically just you can tell when someone rolls a nat 1 or a nat 20. Yeah, magic
forward to
items
it.
and everything. Yeah, so yeah, I'm excited to hear your thoughts on that. I've read the first 9, I want to say, Drizzt books.
So many.
Yeah. Oh,
Aren't there like
so
40 now?
many.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
Like 40 something?
yeah, there's so many. It is literally like the DM is just like I'm gonna never stop this campaign, and the players are all have been meeting every week.
I googled Drit books. How many? 39.
Wow, you're
Oh,
close.
that was close.
Yeah,
Damn.
yeah.
Many.
But yeah, they're homey. They're homey for people that still enjoy like the more traditional high fantasy romps of the 80s and 90s. But yeah,
What about you?
my favorite preferred, or that's redundant. My preferred subgenre of fantasy is probably. I want to say like I've been gearing or I've been favoring low magic settings, like low magic epic fantasies lately. Uh, so stuff like Dandelion Dynasty, uh, yeah, First Law. So stuff that doesn't necessarily have a lot of like magic and bombastic explosions or anything, like Wheel of Time, for example. Even though Wheel of Time is my favorite, but I can just it's easier for me to fall into one of those low magic, grimdark settings. Preferred reading style. I mean, do you guys audio, physical, ebook, all of the above at the same
I
time?
definitely have a strong tendency to go with an audiobook. It's just really convenient for me to put on an audiobook and then like play a game or something while I'm
Yeah.
listening. And it's a way for me to just stimulate all of my senses at once and just vibe. So that's something that I really like.
Yeah.
See, for most books, I can't just do an audiobook, but like I find most of them, or not most, like around half. It depends on the writing style, not necessarily the content of the book. Like if it's Sanderson, I can do audio, but whenever I was listening to Dandelion Dynasty, I could not follow anything. It also depends on the number of names. 'Cause I'm terrible at names, and I don't even know who the main character is because I just kind of focus. Like I like to listen when I drive, but my preferred way to read is like following along with the physical book while I'm listening to the audio because I can see the names and follow along,
Get an affinity.
but also
to
I can
them.
speed through it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think for me it depends on the genre of the book. If I'm reading like a nonfiction, I always listen to it, but it also depends on the narrator. Like we're listening to Promise of Blood, and I cannot stand the narrator. I have to read along. I hate it. I hate it so much. And then like when we're reading books for the book clubs, the various book clubs that we're in or I'm in, like I'll read romance books on the Kindle because it's fast and I don't need to really care that much. But my favorite way to read is with a physical book, but I'd read a lot less if I just read physical books.
I think I'm exactly the same. Well, not
Mhm.
exactly, I guess. I go through moods of what I want to sit down and do. So if I'm feeling like I just want to chill and I don't want to like get through like a go through any motions. Like I don't want to put on my earphones, put on an audiobook, and then go do something. I just sit down and read like a physical book or an ebook, right? Between physical and ebook, it's virtually the same to me. Um,
Yeah.
Audio, I just tend to do more because it's so accessible. If because I can do it while doing the chores, working out, playing a game, or like literally anything. But sometimes I just want to like physically chill. So
Yeah.
and in those moments, I will pull out a physical. So, but I tend to do audio more for the same reasons.
While we're on the topic, do you guys consider audiobooks reading? Because I've experienced a lot of people who I'll say, "Oh, I read this many books," and they're like, "Oh, well, did you do audiobooks?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "That doesn't count."
So many people. Oh my god. It's the same. It's the same thing. It's the same words. It's the same story. I don't know how it doesn't count. I don't understand.
I see no reason for it not to count. Like you're processing the same information, so why should it be any different?
Well, I think the answer to that needs to be first. You need to first ask anyone that's saying this. You need to ask them what do they are they what do they mean by it doesn't count? Like if they're talking about the Goodreads one up or like your
Yeah, they
yearly
mean
goal,
like if you're your yearly goal. Like
right?
I said, "Oh, I'm at I think at the time I was at 40 books or something." They're like, "Wow, you read so fast." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I just listen on my drive sometimes." They're like, "Oh, okay."
Well, but then
Like they
see,
didn't want it to count.
then the question is the value of that number going up purely a numerical value, or is the intrinsic value in there of appreciating the story no matter what? Because if you listen to something and you consume the story, then you have consumed the story, so then your number goes up. But it seems like they value the quote unquote effort put in by reading it, and that just sounds to me like heavy copium.
Yeah, and I used to be like that, but I think it was more because I didn't want to pay for an Audible subscription
Yeah,
or I didn't want to buy the audiobooks, which are like more than the physical books.
yeah,
So I saw it as uh like a like you had to pay to get that efficiency. But then
Mhm.
I realized you could borrow them from the library, and then I just kind of gave up on that point. But
yeah.
I see like skimming as the same thing as like barely focusing on an audiobook. Like
Yeah.
you'll get the same amount of information from it. So if you're skimming, are you still reading? I see it as the same thing.
Yeah, I think with skimming though, it's I mean, if we're going into the semantics of that, I think look, whatever at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it counts or not. It only matters if you enjoyed it, right? Like if people cared so much about the counting, they could just look it up on like Wikipedia, read this plot synopsis, and then say they read it on Goodreads. You're reading because
The
you want to
details.
well, yeah, but I mean, you could just Google the details when questioned. Like, if it is purely a social and numerical endeavor for you, then there are better ways to do that than actually reading the book. But if you actually want to consume the book and enjoy the story, that's all that matters. So that's why I was asking, where's the intrinsic value coming from? The story and consuming it, or the numerical value of it, which it is meaningless to most people, I think.
I think people just want to show off, really.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
bit
that's
of an
fair.
elitist thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I think elitism is just sort of a facade for I don't know. a,
A bit elitist, as they say.
I think elitism is a facade that is masking the real dark truth: insecurity. Yeah, no, that was I'm mostly joking, but yeah,
I'm mostly joking.
Mostly.
Mostly joking.
I mean, hey, you do you. That's all I'll say. But yeah, so are audiobooks reading? The answer is yes. All
Yes.
unanimously.
Our
Yes.
Absolutely.
general consensus.
about audiobooks, this is a little bit. I think this is a bit more controversial, actually. Manga and graphic novels, do they count towards your reading goal? Do they count towards your numeric value increase or whatever?
Oh, I think a few. Like if you read two or three, then I think that it counts. But I think that if you're gonna read Death Note, for example, is that really 12 books that you just added? I mean, it probably took you half an hour to read. I don't know. I don't think that a whole manga series counts as individual books.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Like for instance, if I were to read Invincible, I would count all of Invincible as one book, but I would not count each individual issue as one book or anything of the sort.
Yeah.
I would agree with that too.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
I read, even for short stories, sometimes I feel bad, but at least those I feel like, I don't know, even those are tough, but I know I'm just reading them to buff my stats sometimes. That's like the lowest I'll go in page count. Because I bought I think it was like 100-page graphic novel, and I read it in one sitting, and I felt so bad. I'm like, I just wasted my money too. Because like, for the bigger fantasy books, right? You're spending the same, like, say, $15 on like a trade paperback, or you can spend the same amount for like a 20-minute experience. It feels wrong, both
So,
in money
Well,
and time
yeah.
I
and
think
counting towards
the thing
your
about
reading stats.
graphic novels is that you're not just paying for the words on the page, you're also paying for the images in the graphic novel.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I get that. I get that it's the book itself. It's not just the words. But I have a hard time reading graphic novels. Like, I just read the words and then I realize that I just kind of skim
Skimmed
through the
over it.
pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't like savor a graphic novel.
I do the same thing. I think I told you that. I read the graphic novel I read the other day. It took me like 20 minutes to get through it, and I don't know. I didn't put it in my Goodreads because it felt wrong, and I wasn't looking at the pictures. I can't even tell you what happened. I don't retain it.
So, I mean, I guess that I must be the odd one out here then, because I believe I actually, before the recording of this, I actually would have said the same thing that every one of you said, that it counts if it's like a few here and there. But I think I just talked myself out of it with the last topic in regards to audiobooks, because I realized that the intrinsic value of the graphic novel is the narrative. So what counts as an uptick in your goal, right? Like, is it the story, or is it the time spent reading the story? Because again, if you wanted to maximize the time spent reading the story to have it count as a story, then where's the bar? Like, I mean, there's books out there, right? Like novels that you can listen to in under 4 hours if you speed it up to a quite a high amount, actually, and you could still understand it. But then at the same time, I know for a fact that there are graphic novels that I could end up spending 4 hours to read, just because I do kind of I as a kid I would read a lot of graphic novels. I actually spent time looking at all the pictures and all that stuff. But then is that really reading? You see what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of blurred lines. So for me, it's more of the narrative experience that matters, rather than the time spent. Because the time spent, as I said, I can just maximize it by just
That's
spending.
fair.
Yeah.
I
But
think we need to realize that these things are just completely subjective and arbitrary.
well, yeah,
Like
they are. Yeah.
No.
there's no objective metric to measure these things by.
Well, I think
And
there are metrics that are as close to accurate as can be while not being completely accurate. And I don't think novel count is actually very accurate. I think it should be page and or word count. But no one cares to count that high. Like, I know there's a page counter in Goodreads, but like then you're going to have someone complain that a graphic novel page is different than this page, or this printing was work different than this printing, and so on.
Mhm.
But if you read only novels, even the page count isn't going to be very accurate, because certain novel, it depends on what printing you read. But I think you get closer than a book count, because like 14 books of Wheel of Time is 14 versus 14 like small novels that are like Discworld novels, right? But then the word count is going to give you within the 1,000 page uh, you know, total word count that you read, which is going to be more accurate.
For me personally, whatever I count towards my Goodreads goal, like, stops at novellas. So I might occasionally, like, I did one graphic novel. That was the only graphic novel for the year, so I let it slide. But if I read them consistently, I feel like I would just mark them as read, but not put the date. Or I'd mark one as read and then count the whole thing as one.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess I just think like the whole the more and more I thought about it, like what Nerpy said is kind of true. At the end of the day, those goals are really just for you. It's what you make of them. So if you don't value one graphic novel as working towards your one self-defined goal, one out of your whole goal, then yeah, it doesn't. But it depends on what you yourself value it as.
Yeah, but I think every person should have their own standards, because I know for me, if I
Yeah,
just read, like, say, comics even, or graphic novels or manga, and I read 100 of them, I wouldn't feel like I actually read that much. Like, I wouldn't be proud of myself for that. So, like, I can let a few go. Personally, I would not
yeah.
feel right to add that.
I guess that also depends on if you like, for example, I could have like run like a marathon, which I will never do. I'm not fit enough to do that. But like that's 26 miles under the pocket. But if I read 26 books, I guess I used to be kind of like that a few years ago, where I would like feel proud, and like I do still feel proud, but it's not because of like the number. It's more of like, look at all these stories that mean a lot to me, or quite the contrary, I can shit on them in my free time, which is equally as fun sometimes. But like to me, the goal is just there because I want to read these things that I have set for me in the future, not that I want my number. I don't want big number to go burr. I have video games for that,
There.
Yeah, but yeah, that's do manga/graphic novels count as towards reading goals? The answer is yes because I said so. Moving on.
Okay.
Do you guys prefer new releases or older books? Whenever do you guys read them as they come out, or do you guys prefer reading stuff that has already been in the market for quite some time? And then, I guess a follow up question to that: will you like start a series that's not complete? Like, for example, A Song of Ice and Fire, Stormlight, like Fire mentioned, and then anything basically.
Starting with the last question, I think it depends on, for me, the length of time between books like being released. Like I'm reading the Stormlight books, obviously, because you guys made me. Um,
Another good point.
Yeah.
but I'm
For legal
not
reasons, that is false.
redacted. So I will not read Game of Thrones. It's not happening. Because
Right.
he's gonna not be here to finish them. You know.
Yeah.
What was the first question?
New releases or older books? What do you prefer if you had to choose?
Like, what's my favorite, or what do I go for?
I guess like
Or the latter.
yeah, what do you go for?
Um, I think if we're all really excited for something, like if the whole friend group is like, "Oh my god, this book is coming out," then I'll read that as soon as I can because I want to be one of the first people to finish it.
Yeah.
But overall, I try to work through the older books because there's so many books.
I know.
There are so many.
There are
I have-
so many books.
I have a crisis. I have like a several crises when I think about that. About how many books I won't be able to read.
How'd you mess it up twice? I have a crises. I have a several crises.
Look, I'm gonna hide behind the blanket statement that is only by semantics true that English isn't my first language, and then I'm gonna stop talking.
You
Go
know
on.
what? You know what? You can get away with it. It's fine.
Yes, thank you. Anyways,
We read.
It's okay.
we
Even
listen.
I struggle with English sometimes.
We listen actually. Get it right. Anyways, sorry, Nerpy. Go on.
I was just saying that even I struggle with English sometimes, so
Oh,
don't
okay.
worry about it.
Well, what about your thoughts on older books versus new
On
releases?
older books versus newer books, um, I tend to read newer books. When I say newer, I mean like within the last 10 years. Um, so that's like that comprises the vast majority of books that I've read.
Okay.
Um, as far as like brand new releases, I haven't actually read anything like brand new, just released books in a while.
Yeah.
Even Sanderson's books, which I am subscribed to the Secret Project stuff. So I still haven't read that, even though it's been out for 2 weeks. So I just read whatever I like, and that tends to be that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Um,
So like the release date is like might as well not be told to you then. I guess you could say.
exactly,
Okay.
exactly. It kind of works out that I like newer books versus older books that have been written 50 years ago.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess I'm kind of like that too. Uh, well, actually, without the stipulation of like 50 years or not, I don't really care. But I will say, I will read a book and start a book, for the most part, regardless of any sort of thing. Like, oh, has the author been on track with publishing them on time? Like I would have started and finished A Song of Ice and Fire had I like continued reading it. I've only read the first book and then kind of stopped because I got distracted. But I would have continued even as a kid when I realized that it's been years at the time and still has been like a decade since the last one. And I think that's because I don't know. There's some charm in waiting for something as a collective community. Like
No,
that. Like there's a
no,
charm. No, you don't.
no,
Okay, well I know
no.
you think it's like miserable.
No, because you read the best book ever, and then you're like, "Wow, when's the next one come out?" And then it's been 11 years, and you want to die. So
Yeah, I definitely relate to that sort of situation. It's why I haven't started A Song of Ice and Fire, although I was reconsidering it for a while after House of the Dragon got out, because I got into A Song of Ice and Fire YouTube video phase. Um,
Yeah, you
uh,
watched all the theories without having.
yeah, Alt Shift X was my homie, but fuck that Alt Shift X guy. Um, anyway, um, so yeah, but I never went through with it. I might still read it at some point, but until like I'm sure that the series is going to have a satisfying conclusion, I might not start it.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's
So
fair. That's fair. I guess I've been told, and I agree as of like from the theory videos that I also obsessively binged as a kid when I finished the first book and then couldn't get my hands on the second and then just forgot about it. From all the media I've consumed, including the show, I feel like there's a certain charm that it may never get finished, like this unfinished legend that has been written in our modern times. I think it's gonna be I think that's gonna be quite a bit of its appeal moving on in the next few decades. I don't know. That's just a hunch that I have, but I guess that leads into the next thing.
Wow.
About Oh, sorry,
you
you.
oh,
really
you
Wow.
really
Oh,
did that!
Oh,
Wow.
yeah.
that's
Go on,
fucked.
go on, go on.
That's
I'm
fucked.
sorry. I'm sorry.
Well, I prefer older books, and when I interpreted new releases and older books, I meant like new releases, like coming out, you don't know anything about it, versus older books, like people have read it. Um,
Mhm.
so I normally go for older books because a lot of other readers know what I like, so they'll say, "Oh, this is very fast paced. You'll probably like this," or along those lines. So then I trust those reviews, and then I'll read those things. New releases, I kind of don't want to waste my time with. Plus, things get way overhyped and then are just bad. But lately, I've been liking the hype for it, like enjoying, like waiting for something to come out and then reading it with everyone else. But I normally only do that with authors I trust, or I'll read it
Mhm.
like a week or two after it comes out when I hear the initial reviews, and I'm just kind of curious if I agree with everyone else. Like, I'm glad my mom died wasn't as good as I thought it was. Everyone loved it, so I had to listen to it to see if I liked it.
Now,
I
is
didn't.
that because something like picks up? And I mean, because I don't really go on TikTok or whatever, so I don't know this as much as maybe someone else. But is that because it picks up due to like a random spark of interest, or is that because like the right person promoted it, or is it because it was Jeanette McCurdy that played in
I
iCarly?
think it was all of the above because I feel like no one knew what happened to Jeanette McCurdy. Like after I think the show got canceled or something,
Sam and Cat
and
or
then
something.
yeah, and she kind of like disappeared, and then she just wrote a book, and it's called "I'm Glad My Mom Died."
Okay, yeah, you know what? That's a fair point. That is pretty eye catching. Yeah.
And then also like it does have like things in it that are very interesting and emotional. It's just I don't think it was written well nor narrated well. So like as a book, it wasn't good. But like if she was sitting down next to me telling me her story, I'd be like, "Oh my god, that's so sad. Like I feel so bad for you."
And now I am a very big mood reader, and I think that means something different than what other people use it as. I just read like literally like day to day. I will just pick up something because I feel like it, and I still haven't finished Lost Metal. Is what I'm trying to say.
I think that's what most people mean when they say I'm a mood reader. Like
Oh,
they
I
just
thought.
mean that
Oh,
they'll
okay.
read when they're in the mood for it.
I thought. I
But
thought.
some people also mean that they're wanting a certain thing at a certain time.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think,
Okay.
or both.
Or both.
It
Okay.
can mean
Yeah,
both.
or both.
Like like I'm absolutely loving the purple book with the pretty guy on it. What is that?
Pretty
that called?
Faceless
Empire.
Man,
Empire.
Empire of
God.
Silence.
Oh my god, so good. 5 stars, beautiful. But I cannot read it right now. I can't focus on it because I'm not in the mood for earth-shattering, sun-devouring, pretty men. And I want something happy.
He literally doesn't even have a face.
He literally is gorgeous. Like, don't don't go over, walk over to your bookshelf, pull it off the shelf, look at it, look at him, gorgeous.
Stare into the eternal abyss that
Just
is
look at
his
him.
smooth
Look at his
brain.
faceless little face, his little purple.
So faceless little face.
Top 10
We need it
Ashley
in our
quotes.
lives. Okay.
Top 10 Ashley quotes.
Faceless little face.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of like that too. Actually, like I tried getting into Lost Metal today and like read a little bit, and I just couldn't. I'm like, look, I don't want to learn physics that isn't real. I just want to read story, and so I went back to Dresden.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I do like Sanderson.
I
Yeah, sorry, go on.
I definitely feel like I'm a mood reader, especially considering how I will read and like I'll read for hours and hours and hours in a day, and I'll be like that for like a month, and I won't do anything else but read. And then one day I'll just stop reading, and then I won't read for like 3 months, and then I'll read again, and I'll read like
Yeah,
15 books in this 1 month period. And so like that's just kind of how it goes for me, and it's kind of the same as what you said, Scribe, where sometimes the thing that prevents me from getting into a book, like getting into a reading phase, that really long phase where I'm reading, is just that one book that I want to read, and it's just not the particular thing that I want to read right at that moment.
like you feel like you need to read it, but
Yeah,
you don't
like
want to.
like I definitely like I have the Lost Metal sitting on my bedside table, and it's just they're waiting for me, just staring at me at all hours of every day for me to read it, and I haven't picked it up because
Yeah,
it's just not the particular thing that I want at that moment.
I know what you mean. Yeah, I will come back to that, but I will let Fire go so I don't
Yeah,
forget her.
I guess I'm the odd one out in that sense because I'm more structured with my reading. I like planning things. I like having a TBR. I like checking things off my lists, and I like planning how much I need to read every single day.
That's because
And
you're a high
leeway
performing
I-
individual.
the leeway I give myself, because I read multiple books, so in a way,
Yeah.
I'm a mood reader in the sense that I'll read the one I want to read. And especially once I get to like, once I near the end of a book, then I normally get that like taking the high gear kind of motivation to read. Um, it's more how much I read that's the mood reading part. But I always read something,
Yeah.
which sometimes that puts me in a slump, but sometimes that is what keeps me going because I know sometimes I don't want to read and then I'll read 20 pages and then I want to read all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So I just
Hooks you
I
in.
push through it because I can like trick myself into reading more.
Yeah. I
Like
guess
it pays off.
Yeah, I know what you mean by the pays off because like I so what I said about what I was saying that I would come back to it is that sometimes I'll look at the shelf and I'll or like my list of books on Audible or whatever it is, Libby. And I'm gonna be like, I should read this. I should be reading this. I should be finishing this. But I think either one of two things happen. Either I just don't, right? Or I do what Fire said, where I like read 20 minutes and then it like hooks me back in. But sometimes I do that and then it doesn't because it's just not the book, right? It's not a fun book, at least at the moment. But I think I'm running under the principle that if I want to read something at all, I'm just gonna do it because like it's still like I want to do it, so I'm gonna do it. And if I enjoy it, then maybe I'll finish it, right? And then that'll be one thing that I've always wanted to read, and now it is read. So, because a lot of the time I say no, I shouldn't read this because I should be reading something else. But I'm like, what is this, a job? I don't even get paid, so I'm just gonna read it, read whatever I
See,
want.
I get satisfaction out of just checking it off my box, so like checking it off my list. So even if I don't like the book, I know I'll get rewarded for it just by finishing it.
Hmm.
Like that's my reward. If I don't finish it, then it's gonna haunt me for the rest of my days. Like the only book currently that I have DNF'd is The Truth by Terry Pratchett, and it keeps bothering me that I only have one book on that list. But I don't feel like reading Discworld right now. Then I keep thinking about it. I
Yeah.
I don't like it.
It'll the
Speaking of which,
truth
do you
will
guys
haunt you.
DNF books? Like, do you drop it if you don't like it?
So many. So many.
You read so many books though. How many do
I
you
do.
drop?
Well, I mean, look, if you look at my Goodreads, I have a shelf called Never Finished, and it has 104 books on it.
Oh my god!
Okay, but that's more
Wow.
because you start reading something and then you forget about it more so than like
No,
you just
no.
don't like it and you
Never
drop it.
Finished is like, because if I just forget about, like, it just sits on my currently reading forever. Like, the blade itself is there because I'm reading it. I'm not going to not read it because I was enjoying it. I'm just not vibing with it right now. Never Finished is I read at least 5 chapters and was like, no. So then I moved it to my Never Finished shelf so that I didn't one day be like, oh, wow, that looks fun, and then add it to my TBR again.
Oh, so
You do judge
it's a
books off
deliberate
their
choice.
covers.
I partially do. I mostly judge books based off how they're written, though. The writing, like if it's pretty or not. Like I'm not going to read an ugly book. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you buy them. You buy the pretty
I
books.
do buy them,
And then
and I
you
sleep,
don't
in,
read
sleep in the
them.
Sea of Stars, even though it was terrible. Because it's gorgeous. How can I get rid of you? You know, you shine the kitchen light on it, beautiful, shining on its shelf.
Glows in the dark, basically.
Glows in the dark.
So the book kind of sleeps in a sea of stars.
Yep, forever.
Yep.
Never to be opened again.
Well,
Nerpy, Arian, do you guys DNF books?
Not typically. Usually, if I start a book, I'll see it through to the end. One example of a book that I have DNF'd is what was it called? Valor. The second book in the sequel to Malice.
Faithful and the Fallen series.
Yeah, Faithful and the Fallen. Yes, thank you. I needed that. And that was simply because like it wasn't as interesting as the first book was. I DNF'd it like halfway through, and I just had other things that I wanted to be doing at the time, so I just DNF'd it.
Yeah, that one was a little hard for me to get through, but I still want to finish the series just because I'm a completionist.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Even though, like, if I don't like a series, I'll put it on hold and then I'll try to chip away at it instead of spending time on it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that it's possible that it simply has like middle book syndrome, where it's just not as interesting because there's not as much going on because it's the middle.
I feel like the first half is like that. The second half kind of picks up.
Yeah, it's definitely evident in the first book. I'm more referring to Valor as a whole book. So
Yeah,
I definitely I want to see what happens next. I was very interested in the world that was
John
I'm
Gwynn.
forgetting the author's name. What the fuck is
John
his
Gwynn.
name? John Gwynn, yeah, that he
Gwynn.
created.
What a name.
It's a very cool name. John Smith.
Arian, do you DNF?
John
I
S-
by principle yes, but I actually tend to DNF series more often than I do individual books. Like I've DNF'd. I think the only book that I can remember that I DNF'd in the last couple years is Holy Sister by Mark Lawrence, and honestly, that might just be that like the first two books were like fine. It did not sell me on what I was told it was. It sells you on assassin nuns. They're just superheroes. They're not assassins. They're just superheroes. But I think also because I was not invested in the story, I was going through a reading slump. I just said like, if I'm gonna get into reading, I just need to like chuck it in the trash, you know, and just move on. And then that's what I did, and I got back into reading that year because I took a really long slump. But anyways, the point is, yes, I do, but I tend to, but I'm very easily impressed by books. I've noticed, like, I tend to, I will like most things, and so for me to DNF a book, it has to be a combination of the book being really that bad and a bunch of like situational such environmental things like I'm not feeling it right now, or I'm too busy, or none of my friends are reading it, so I don't even have anyone to really talk to about it, which, you know, also obviously talking to friends about it definitely motivates people to read or push through. But
Yeah.
like, yeah, so
Because even Hounded, which was arguably one of the worst books I've read, was
Yeah.
fun to read because we were all talking about it.
Well,
we were
yeah,
all
like I'm not.
yeah.
I would never quit reading a book just because I was like, oh, I'm bored, or oh, I don't like the way this is written. So like I love reading the books all together. If none of us are enjoying the book, or if it's just so bad it's funny and we're all, you know, like that's like it's great. Like I never stop reading a book just because it's like oh it's boring. I have very specific things that bother me. Like I can't, and I've told you I won't talk about them here, but they happen frequently in books, and then I'm like, oh, can't read this. Um, yeah, that was I don't know. Like sorry,
No, you're good.
sorry.
Yes. I personally, I don't really have any specific thing that I will stop for. For me, I am like the inverse of that, where I will just stop reading if it is boring. Like if it is not hooking me in the moment, and that's what I meant by like day to day mood reader. Like I am sure in a month or so, some arbitrary day, I pick up Lost Metal and they start talking pseudo physics. It's gonna be my jam. But just not today, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I also did DNF the series Faithful in the Fallen, so I didn't even start the second book.
See, all DNF series, have a hard time DNFing slow.
Yeah,
Because I feel like I can't fully judge it if I don't know how it wraps up.
I mean you can judge what you have read of the book, right? Like you can write a review and say I finished on this, like I stopped reading at this point. Here's why, and then you're only ever judging the percent, like whatever you have read.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I even told you, like the first time I read Way of Kings, I only got maybe 10% through, and I just dropped it. Like I didn't pick it up again. And then when I did pick it up, it became my favorite book. So
Yeah,
I feel like it's hard to judge when you've only read a certain amount of a book. Because even reading half or even 80%,
Mhm.
Like the writing style you can judge, but I mean you can't really judge the plot. You can't judge any character arcs. Like nothing wraps up nicely to where you can just say, "Oh, bad book."
Mhm.
That's an interesting. See, I'm actually. That's one of the things that I'm not fully opinionated on, just because I haven't really thought about it. But maybe that's another topic for a later time. Exciting. Yeah, but I will need to think about that. But yeah, does anyone else have any things? to say?
Slight addendum, because now I feel bad. This To Sleep in a Sea of Stars is not a bad book. So if that's anyone's favorite book, you very very nice.
No,
I just
no.
hate sci-fi. I hate sci-fi. I
Oh,
don't
really?
like sci-fi.
Wow.
I hate sci-fi.
I
Hate
didn't
it.
know you hate sci-fi.
Yeah,
Like
can't
specifically.
stand it. Have
Wow.
never given a single sci-fi book more than 2 stars. Like I just don't like sci-fi.
Wow.
Except for Sun Eater, apparently.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like I don't know what it is. I think it's because it's written a lot like I was telling Sid. It reminds me of Patrick Rothfuss books, which I really like.
Oh,
So
okay. King Killer.
yeah, it reminds me a lot of I think that the main character is a lot like Kvothe from The Name of the Wind, which
Okay. He's your boy.
No, we won't get into that. We won't get into that. It is January 18th, 2023, and Patrick Rothfuss still has not published Doors of Stone. It's been 12 years, but that's fine.
Wow. I'm gonna have to bleep out the January 18th part. I'll keep the 2023, just so no one ever understands how long it would have taken me to edit this because I am a piss poor editor.
That's okay.
Yes, so I'm just gonna be beep beep 2023.
2023. It's been 12 years.
Yeah.
He forever changed the way that I decide what books to read because I feel betrayed, but that's
Yeah.
fine. I have
Yeah.
no idea what I was saying.
No, I know. I followed the chain of thoughts. I somewhat have a theory as to why you might not like sci-fi based on and why you might like that one based on what you told me before in our many conversations about books. I think it's because sci-fi tends to take a more detached perspective on the characters when writing the prose. Like for example, Dune isn't very concerned about the character's mind as on like an empathetic level. It's concerned
Mhm.
on a very like objective level because it's also third person omniscient. So you know where what everyone is thinking, but you can't like hone in like you might in like a third person limited or even like a first person um, story. But I'm not saying that's for all sci-fi because I personally think Red Rising doesn't read like normal sci-fi.
I
Like
haven't read that one.
it it might as well be a fantasy book. Like honestly, the space elements are cool. Don't get me wrong. It is a bombastic space opera with all the things that you would want in a space opera, like classic sci-fi battles, spaceships, laser guns, magma fists or power fists or whatever you want to call them. It's all really cool stuff, but you could just replace those elements with like naval warfare and like swords, and you could tell the same story because it's very
Right.
character driven.
Yeah, I do really like. That's the most important thing to me is I could read a 900-page book of people just sitting in a circle telling their life story. Like I just like character.
Yeah, and I do too, and that's
Mhm.
and I think that might be why you don't
Don't
like a
like
lot of.
sci-fi.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
a good theory.
yeah. Sorry, go on.
No, that's a good theory. I have never thought of it like that. I just assume I'm like, okay, well, else I'm not gonna like this. That's why I've put off reading like The Martian, for example. 'Cause I
That
don't
one I feel like is so stylized in its writing style that it's stylized in its style. Very nice. It's just very unique that the genre doesn't even matter.
Okay. Oh, you read it. I
It's
forgot.
it's kind of special. It's a little special
Special.
lad.
Yes,
Special
special.
boy.
But yeah,
Like
I'm
Matt
more of a
Damon.
plot person, and everything else kind of supplements, if that makes sense. Like if the plot's not doing it for me, then I go to maybe like magic system if it is fantasy,
Mm,
and like the action, I guess, which is
Plot
arguably
of
plot.
the three, like character writing and plot. Plot's the least important to me. Like it would be
Same.
character
Yeah, you're like the inverse
and
of
then
me.
writing. Yeah, and then plot. We've talked about that before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I value plot, then character, then prose, I'd say.
Hmm.
Nerpy?
I think, I think character's probably at the top of the list for me. If there's if a series has or a book has one really good character that I really like, then that is enough for me to like complete the book.
Okay.
Like for instance, one of the things about Dresden Files that I really really love is just really immersing myself in the mind of Harry.
Mhm.
Like I feel like I know this character inside and out, every single way, every dimension, every facet of this character, and that's like one of my favorite things about this series. And that also helps me because one of the things that I love about books is that I love relating to characters. I like to see myself in characters, and Harry Dresden is one character that I definitely see myself relating to a lot. Not in being a wizard or having so many like magical things going on around him, but as like he's a character that has like a certain darkness inside him, and I just see that like as a facet of the human condition, and to see him struggle with that and overcome it is very admirable to me, and I really like that. So the whole seeing a character just deal with stuff that I deal with personally in some small way, just really helps me just engross myself in a book.
Yeah, I agree with you on the Dresden thing. His arc definitely deals a lot with like self control against like some of the more baser desires, but also some of the more complicated desires of humans. Like it,
Mm-hmm.
it I agree. Like it's very compelling to read. I think a lot of the times when you make a decision and there's like a known and certified wrong choice and then everything else, it takes a lot of willpower to not do that wrong choice no matter what. And
Mm-hmm.
I think he's basically just Spider-Man. With great power. I mean, they quote great power, that quote like at least a dozen times, but they don't actually say that quote verbatim. Which, but he's basically Spider-Man if he was a 30-year-old wizard. But yeah,
Yeah, I
no,
think of that differently because if Dresden wasn't doing anything interesting, I don't think his character would have time to shine. So then I feel like sometimes they go hand in hand.
plot and
But like,
character.
if I know he's done interesting stuff and I experience that with him, and after I could probably just appreciate his character, like sitting in a room doing nothing, like Ashley prefers
Mhm.
or enjoys.
Yeah,
But
I know what you mean.
I'm not attached to the character unless they're doing something significant.
So
So in
I
that way, I'm more a plot person.
So I guess to you, is there a difference between the character choosing to do something and that's how the plot is derived, or the plot just happening and the character must react?
They feed off of each other, but yeah, there's definitely a difference. Like I prefer the character to be making the decisions, otherwise I get mad at the character, which like the I guess when I say I'm a plot person, I mean that things need to be happening for me
Yeah,
to be engaged. Like if everything like politics normally just goes over my head because nothing's happening. They're just talking about things that might happen or could happen, might have happened, you know,
yeah.
oh,
A
I'm
lot of a
planning to
lot
do
of
this, but
a lot of
this
like
might not happen.
status quo defining, but not actually status quo making.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah.
also I can't follow names, so they're just talking and I don't know what to think half the time.
I don't know what's going
But
on.
yeah, I have to be invested in the character. Like, okay, think of them as tier list. Something has to be happening for me to be interested, right?
Yeah,
But if I'm invested in the character, it fuels the plot, and I'm more invested in the plot because I like the character.
yeah,
And then if the writing is good, whether it's just like Sanderson's prose I like because I don't realize that I'm reading, so then I get more invested. Or for A Little Life, that's like the only book where if I look at the plot, I'm like, oh, probably wasn't that good. But the characters and the prose were so good, and like the moments in a way were the plot. So all of that worked together to make it the 5-star that I gave it. Like they feed each other. They all fuel the plot.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying the plot is kind of the base for me.
I mean, actually, that's a fair point because I think sometimes people will say that. I used to be one of these people who would say that if the character is making a decision, it's automatically better. But sometimes it could be a character making a stupid ass decision, and not in like a the character is stupid so the decision fits because I have nothing against dumb characters or not very wise characters, but if it doesn't like
In
fit
like any detective woman in any story.
Is this from you reading all those thriller stories?
Or just literally anything, like any TV show, any movie, any book. Where there's a detective woman, you know they're gonna be like, no, stay here, or she's gonna be
do
like,
some
I wonder
dumb
what they're
shit.
doing. They
Yeah.
just and then like stuff happens because they walk into whatever situation she wasn't supposed to walk into, right? And then they have to like protect her, and she's like, what's happening? It's like you ruined everything.
It's
It's basically the plot of everything.
that is very much a trope, isn't it? I'm realizing how
It
many
is.
how
It is.
many things
That is like my most hated trope.
where
Whenever there's a detective woman, I'm like, I already know what you're gonna do.
so basically you hate Lois Lane with a passion.
I haven't watched anything with her in it, I don't think.
Just like
The-
the reporter lady trope that where the superhero is like, you have to sit this one out. It's gonna be dangerous, and
Oh, I
then
thought you meant her specifically. I couldn't remember which one she was from.
well, yeah, I mean Lois Lane is a reporter that dates Superman, basically, is what I was saying, like that trope.
Oh yeah, I don't like that trope.
Yeah, I will say since we talked about Dresden, Dresden does that trope well because the characters are actually competent. But anyways, go on. Sorry, Ashley, were you gonna say something?
Oh yeah, but another
Oh.
version where I don't. Sorry, Ashley. But another
No
version
worries.
where I don't like just the plot. Hounded, for example. He's not doing anything. Stuff is just happening. That's not entertaining. It's just kind of
Yeah,
falling around him.
yeah. I think for me it might be like the exact inverse as well because I also, much like Ashley, would be perfectly fine with just a bunch of well-defined characters in a room talking about anything. But
Yeah.
I think when they do stuff, it enhances that. Like I mean, think about like a bunch of soldiers sitting down and discussing things like a character-driven story about soldiers around like a war council table or like a therapy session post-war.
Therapy section.
But then you actually like yeah basically like but like imagine like a Saving Private Ryan intro, so like now you're in their heads during the wartime, so that's like a plot thing, right? Like capture this, defend this, do this, hit this, right? Fire this, and then after that it quiets down and now we see those very same characters, the survivors, talking about it, and then you get the same character. Like I would say the plot enhances the characters in this case, whereas in your
Yes.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I would need to see the like wartime action to feel for them in the therapy section, rather than sitting through the therapy session to bond with them and then feeling bad for them in the wartime event, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Books you love to hate and books you hate to love.
Oh man.
so
Oh man.
so I'm gonna give you a little bit of time because I had to, so love to hate meaning stuff that is maybe popular that you hate, right? For me, the answer is very obvious, and I'm sure Fire agrees with this one. um,
Wait, are you gonna choose what I'm gonna choose? I'm
well,
gonna have to think of
depends.
something else then.
Well, actually, I feel like we're both. I feel like our backups are also gonna be the same.
Oh no!
Maybe we should just count down and you both say it at the same time.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
I go first because you keep skipping over me.
okay, fine.
Oh no.
I owe you that.
I love. It'll give them time to think. Okay, I love to hate A Court of Thorns and Roses.
Oh, well, that was my backup.
Well, wait. Okay, well, what was your first one?
Piranesi. I just, God,
Oh,
What's
mine
the-
was Hounded. My backup was Hounded.
Hounded. Oh God. Pounded.
Well, I love to hate Court of Thorns and Roses because at least the first two were very fun to read because there was like so much to make fun of. And I know people love it. Sorry, Ashley.
It was love Friends of Rose Sydney.
I don't know
Docs.
if,
But I don't think they're very well written and they're just kind of like the cheesy romance, but I think it's like in the way that people would hate or no, they hate to love them, but I love to hate them, you know?
oh, so for others
like-
they're guilty pleasures.
Yeah, for others they might be guilty pleasures, but for me I love to hate them because they're very entertaining to make fun of, in my opinion.
They're very easy to make fun of because you can kind of like pick out any scene, and if you have even just like basic context to that scene or you remember the context, you're just gonna be like, why? And I've only read the first two, but yeah, I've read better
I
romance.
stopped after the third because that wasn't as fun to read.
Yeah,
So
yeah, but that's yours. Mine is Pure Nessie, but I will get to that later. I will allow Nerpy and Ashley, unless you need more time.
I think I got an answer.
All right.
So, the book that I would say that I love to hate the most would have to be Warbreaker.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I just it wasn't that interesting to me, first of all, and then also I didn't like the characters. I thought that they were kind of stupid. And they were not their emotions were not very realistic from the way that I saw it. And also the plot was very predictable in a way that wasn't very intelligently done, in my opinion. Like I could guess like pretty much everything that was going to happen like 10 chapters before it did. And I thought that that was not very engaging.
see, that's
So-
funny because that's basically the book that got me into reading.
Like a beginner's reading.
Like that was the book that made me actually go out and buy books and want to read more. And it got me into
I mean,
Sanderson's work, which
I
got me
don't
into Jordan's work,
I don't
which got me
have
into reading.
anything I don't have anything against anyone who likes this book. It's just I don't like it myself.
Yeah, that's fair.
No, you have a personal vendetta against any.
Yeah, well, you can't tell him that.
Oh, I can't.
No,
Why not?
now he knows. Well,
Now he knows his his innate hatred towards
Now
specific
I know to lock my doors at night.
Oh no! Wait, but
moving
you're the
on,
one hating.
Ashley.
Ashley, book I love to hate. Well, there's two in particular. Neither of them are fantasy. I think, but well, maybe urban fantasy. One of them is growing up. I had to read in school, which is weird, by the way. We had to read the City of Bones books. You know the
I've
you know
heard of
Oh,
those,
is that
yeah.
Cassandra Clare?
Cassandra Clare. Oh my god, they were so bad. They're plagiarized and they're written so bad. And like just fucking disaster. Why were they so popular? And the TV show that they spawned, weird as fuck. Okay. Anyway, awkward, just bad. And then the Love on the Brain and Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood, which you know all about. Terrible.
Is that
It's
the
literally
Kylo
fanfiction.
Ren fan
Yeah,
fiction?
yeah.
Yeah.
Literally fanfiction. Literally fanfiction. Why did
How
that
did
happen?
it get published?
How did it get published? I don't know.
And then it was a bestseller for a long
It was
time.
a best. It's still a bestseller.
Oh my
It
god.
is in the top 10 consistently. One of the two of them. It is baffling. I don't understand.
Well, that yeah, I don't want to read any of those.
They just stuck with me. I will never forget any of them. They were so awful.
Yeah,
So
they,
awful.
they were really popular when I was a teenager around the
Mhm.
people that read. But yeah, I guess the instructions that were unclear to me because I chose a book that I love to hate as in like something that's pretty well received in the masses. But
Could be either.
I guess, yeah. So I'm just gonna stick with Piranesi and commit to the cause. The reason I don't like it is because what's the point? Like I saw the end coming like a mile away. If you give me some bullcrap, some contrived reason about the journey, it's like the journey's freaking boring. It's repetitive. It's the same. It's the same like plot device, I guess, or world building device, whatever you want to call it, to inspire some sort of like mystery. But I'm like, there's no mystery because I like it's boring and I know what's gonna happen. So and I don't know what's gonna happen because I looked it up or anything, but because it's in the page, like it's not that hard, you know. And I don't know. It was a waste of my like 4 or 5 hours it took me to read it basically. So I regret reading that book. It's not worth the uptick in Goodreads gold coins. I will take the 51 books read in 2021 gladly to have saved that time. So yeah, I don't know why it's so loved. I guess maybe the people think the writing is beautiful, and I guess it could be seen as such.
Actually, you read it, right?
Which one?
Piranesi.
Yes. It was okay. I didn't love it. I read it because it was part of the fantasy book club last year or the year before.
Mhm.
Oh my god, the year before. I thought it was strange. Like it didn't flow super well. Um, it was trying to be whimsical, but it just was weird.
Yeah.
Those are my feelings on that.
Yeah, I thought it was okay. I wasn't too engaged in what was happening.
Yeah.
That's basically my only thought on it.
It's just so weird because people seem to like adore it, and I guess maybe it's just not for me. I guess because I don't
People have formed a religion around this book.
wait.
They really did.
Really? Like a cult classic kind of thing, or like legit like they're gonna sacrifice some Sanderson fans or something?
Yes.
I mean, probably they would though. They would.
Yeah. Yeah.
They'd be
that's
like,
fair.
Susanna Clark, I sacrificed a Sanderson fan for you to write another novel.
See,
No.
I would imagine it's Erickson fans that would do that, but I mean,
I'm okay with that.
Finally, books you hate to love, a guilty pleasure through and through.
See, mine's not super controversial, I guess. I don't hate to love this book, but I feel guilty for liking it so much, Poppy War, because I loved it when I read it, right? Loved it, like easy 5 stars. But like I feel bad recommending it to people because I know her prose wasn't great. I know her writing was kind of choppy. Her characters are a bit hollow. I loved it. I loved it when I read it.
It was like made for you.
Yeah, it was. Oh my god. But like, if I go reread it, I don't think I would enjoy it as much.
You're scared to
But
go
I
back.
still love yeah, I am. But I love the experience of reading it the first time. Like it was so good. Oh my god. It was one of those books that I didn't want to finish because I didn't want it to be over, which is very rare.
Yeah, I remember you saying that you didn't want to like read anymore for the day or something because you're scared you're just gonna binge the entire thing and finish it. Yeah. Ashley, Nerpy. Books you hate to love.
I love fucking Akatar. I really do. It's such a bad book. It's written so badly. It's a little rapey. It's
It really is though. Like, that's
it's really problematic.
No
but
one
I've
says
read it
anything
4
about that.
times.
They're just like, it's fine.
No, it's
He
not
was
fine.
just,
He's
I'm like,
misunderstood.
Not even just the first, like all of them. Like the first one, like he's problematic, and then the second one, Homeboy's problematic in different ways. They're all problematic. They're all like it's not good. It's not romantic. It's not something to aspire to. But I will keep reading it and rereading it. Wonderful.
Beautiful. Nerpy.
Beautiful.
I don't know that I really have a book or even a series that fits, to be honest. Maybe the closest thing might be like Percy Jackson.
Or think of something that you would feel slightly guilty to recommend to someone that you like. Or like afraid
Yeah.
to recommend.
Ashamed. Shame.
I just don't have anything that fits.
I was gonna laugh if you said Dresden Files because that would be like 7 like
No.
that's like 7 prompts.
I'm gonna recommend that to every single person. Okay.
That's fair. That's fair. And you feel no shame, of course, right? Because
No,
why should
no
you?
shame. Exactly.
I
Are
mean,
you?
you're also very well. I was gonna say Nerpy's very selective with what he reads too.
He is, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so I don't think I think you out of all people are the most quality over quantity.
Exactly. Yeah. I will find. I know what I like, and I will find it, and that is the only thing that I will read. And therefore, I will never have any books that I dislike, except for a
Hey.
few.
Except for a few, but those you dislike. You don't
Count.
even like hate.
Yeah,
them.
those are ones that I don't even hate to love. I just don't like it.
Yeah. Well, for me, I'm kind of the same, like kind of but and I'm not gonna say something like Hounded because I didn't like it. I liked the discourse around it because it was easy to make fun of and meme about. But so I think the best thing that fits under this is probably going to be Gotrek and Felix, and just like the series as a whole. I'm on book 5. Warhammer as a whole, I think, because Warhammer is so bizarre, but I love it, and I will always defend Gotrek and Felix as having a better romance sub arc than anything that Sarah J. Maas has written. Because it's
They're
just
not rapey.
no, well, no, they're not because and actually this story is about this guy like one of the two main characters who's so relatable, but he's also like slaying dragons and like monsters, but he just has like the most everyman thoughts, and I'm just like he represents the common man. You know what I mean? And his like and I love the way that romance sub arc was written in book 4 because it goes from Felix to his partner, right? It's not really a spoiler. I mean, her name is Ulrika. It goes from back and forth, right? And they're both like thinking the same thing, just but they're like miscommunicating. And I'm like, this is so real because you see it every day with everyone. And I'm like, this is happening after they fought like 7,000 goblin warriors, and then now they're in like a library, or like Felix is hungover, or actually I think he's getting drunk, but I mean same thing in this case. I don't know. It's just it's so grounded while being so over the top at the same time that I will always like defend it when it comes to like anything in fantasy, or romance for this specific subplot.
So it's one of those things that you'll hate on, and then if someone hates on it, then you'll yell at them for hating on it.
Yeah, like it does have flaws. I don't know what those flaws are because I'm just having so much fun. So, yeah. But yeah, that's it, guys. I mean, this was session 0. Um, I say session 0 because I play D&D and I'm cool. But yeah,
That's
this
what
was
you think.
yeah. This was just to get to know us as your fellow readers, guildies. That sounds really
Don't
stupid.
call us that.
No.
Don't call us that.
No.
The hosts of the guild hosts. How about that? That sounds a bit more professional. But-
Guild masters.
We'll work on it. We're working.
Yeah, guild masters. All right, I'm vibing with
Yeah,
that one.
it's a little better.
Yeah. So, but yeah, we shall reconvene to discuss a great many literature in the future. Please,
So many literature.
yes, please let us know what you like.
And thanks for listening.
Just let us know. Leave it at that.
Yeah.
Let us know.
Leave it in the comments. Please
Yeah,
subscribe.
Please like,
please.
comment, and
Be held at
subscribe.
gunpoint, please.
Like, comment, subscribe.
Repeatedly blinking twice.
Morse code with your eyes.
Yeah. Anyways, and that's a wrap.